안녕하세요. In this video, I'm going to give you some examples of syllable blocks in Korean, and we will do a little bit more listening practices. Let me show you what we are going to do for listening practices. So you will hear on audio, and then your job is to find the correct one among three choices. So here you can see three different words in Korean, and then I will play this audio.
개, 개,
Then you should find out the correct word. The answer was 개. After checking the answers, I will read all the options just for you to review. So here we go. 개, 개, 개. Alright, so this will be the structure of the video for listening practices, and we'll move on to the next question.
공부, 공부,
So the correct answer is 공부, 공부. 농부, 공부, 동부. Alright, let's move on. So you just practiced some words with 기역 sound in it. So 기역 sound, 가, 개, 공부, 과일, 학교. So probably you noticed that you can write in different shapes depending on their location and the syllable structure style. Let's move on to the next consonant. Now I'm going to play the audio, so your job is to find the answer. Now let's move on to the next practice. I will play the audio, so your job is to find the answer.
나, 나,
The answer is 나, 나. 네, 너, 나. Okay, let's move on.
운동, 운동,
The answer is 운동, 운동. 안동, 운동, 연동. So we just looked at some words with the 니은 consonant. 나, 농구, 저녁, 운동. Alright, let's move on. I will play the audio, so you know what you should do.
돈, 돈,
The answer is 돈, 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 또, 돈. Alright, let's move on to the next question.
걷다, 걷다,
The answer is 걷다, 걷다. 갔다, 걷다, 굳다. You might be wondering why I'm pronouncing such a way that 걷다, not 걷다. So there's a pronunciation rule saying that 디귿 sound is following another 디귿 sound, then it should be tensified, which means this second syllable 다 becomes 따, not 다. So you will learn the pronunciation rule maybe in the future of the elementary course. Let's move on. We just looked at some words with 디귿 consonant. 두부, 돈, 돼지, 걷다, 걷다. Alright, let's move on.
둘, 둘,
The answer is 둘, 둘. 두, 둥, 둘. Let's move on to the next one.
라면, 라면,
The answer is 라면, 라면. 냉면, 라면, 온면. So here we just looked at the words with 리을 sound. 라면, 런던, 둘, 달력. Let's move on to the next one.
물, 물,
The answer is 물, 물. 불, 물, 둘. Just talked about 둘, right? Okay, let's move on to the next question.
모자, 모자,
The answer is 모자, 모자. 모자, 모사, 무사. We just looked at some words with 미음 sounds. 모자, 물, 모, 곰. Alright, let's move on to the next sound.
별, 별,
The answer is 별, 별. 별, 뼈, 편. Alright, let's move on to the next question.
덥다, 덥다,
The answer is 덥다, 덥다. 덜다, 담다, 덥다, 덥다. Alright, we just looked at some words with 비읍 consonant. 바다, 불, 별, 덥다. Let's move on.
쇠, 쇠,
The answer is 쇠, 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 시, 새. Right, let's move on.
신발, 신발,
The answer is 신발, 신발. 심장, 신발, 실밥. Just we covered the words with 시옷 sounds. 사과, 신발, 쇠, 맛. Notice that this 시옷, when it's located in the final consonant position, it becomes 디귿 sound. So it will sound like 맛. Okay, let's move on.
약, 약,
The answer is 약, 약. 역, 약, 욕. So I hope you can differentiate different vowel sounds here in these words. And let's move on.
공, 공,
The answer is 공, 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 쿵, 콩. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Just now we looked at some words with 이응 consonant. So when 이응 is in the initial position of a syllable, we call zero consonant. So 아기, 언제, 약. But when it's located in the final position of the syllable, it has a sound like 공, 공, sound, right? Okay, let's move on. Let's listen.
G, G,
The answer is tree, tree. 쇠, 쇠, tree. So please make sure you can differentiate the diphthongs here. 왜 and 위, tree. Alright, let's move on to the next question.
주말, 주말,
The answer is 주말, 주말. 정말, 주말, 장마. We just looked at some words with 지읒 sound. 주말, 중국, tree, not. And also notice that when 지읒 is in the final position of a syllable, it becomes 디귿 sound. So you pronounce it as not, not. Okay, let's move on. Let's listen.
춤, 춤,
The answer is 춤, 춤. 숨, 점, 춤. Move on to the next question.
최고, 최고,
The answer is 최고, 최고. 차고, 최고, 중고. We just looked at the sound 치, 차, 춤, 최고, 몇. Notice that this 치읒 is located in the final position of the syllable. It's pronounced as 디귿 sound. So it's going to be 몇. Alright, let's move on.
코, 코,
The answer is 코, 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 후, 꽤. Let's move on to the next one.
퀴즈, 퀴즈,
The answer is 퀴즈, 퀴즈. 거즈, 치즈, 퀴즈. You might have noticed that these are all Korean transcription of English words, which is interesting, but I think it might be, easier for you to remember. We just cover some words with cute sound. So cool, cup, and it's going to be the same with English. And quiz, 부엌. Notice that this ki역 is located at the end of the syllable, the final position of the syllable. It's also pronounced as 기역 sound. So it's 부엌. It's not like 부엌 or something. So please notice that there are some pronunciation rules you need to follow, especially when you see some consonants in the final position. And I have another separate video for pronunciation rule. Let's move on.
털, 털,
The answer is 털, 털, 덜, 딸, 털. Let's move on to the next question.
튀김, 튀김,
answer is 튀김, 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 퇴근, 구김. We just covered some words with teeth sound. 토요일, 털, 튀김, 밭. Notice that this teeth is also one of those consonants. When it's located in the final position of a syllable, it becomes tigus sound. So you pronounce it as 밭. You don't have to try to make effort to say like 밭. You don't have to do that. Alright, let's move on.
피, 피,
The answer is P. 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 B. P. Move on to the next one.
편지, 편지,
The answer is 편지. 편지. 반지. 반지. 편지. 펀치. We just covered some words with P sound. P. 팔. 팔. 편지. 앞. Notice that this P sound, when it's located in the final position of a syllable, it becomes P sound. So you pronounce it as 아, not 아프. So you really need to study the pronunciation rule. Let's move on to the next one.
형, 형,
The answer is 형, 형, 영, 형, 향. Let's move on to the next one.
좋다, 좋다,
Okay. The answer is 좋다, 좋다. 주다, 졸다, 좋다. So we just covered the words with he sound in it. For example, 호주, 한국, 형. And you might be wondering about this word, 좋다. So I didn't pronounce it, or the audio did not pronounce it as like 좋다, because there is the pronunciation rule saying that here at the end of this syllable, when followed by this tig sound, it affects this tig sound. So this tig becomes t sound, t sound, and then this here is dropped from this syllable. So it becomes 좋다, 좋다. Alright, so you need to study the pronunciation rule for he sound. Let's move on.
꼬리, 꼬리,
The answer is 꼬리, 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 코피. Let's move on.
뛰다, 뛰다,
The answer is 뛰다, 뛰다. 닦다, 뛰다, 튀다. Okay. Let's move on. We just covered some words with consonant sounds that are tense. So we say like twin consonant or tense consonants. So basically like a duplicate of here or 디귿. So it's 꼬리, 낚시, 또 뛰다. But notice that this 낚시, if they are located at the end of the syllable, then you just pronounce it as if it's just here. Let's look at some more tense sounds.
빵, 빵,
This should have been easy for you. 빵, 빵, 방, 빵, 파. Move on to the next question.
쓰다, 쓰다,
The answer is 쓰다, 쓰다. 끄다, 뜨다, 쓰다. So be careful with these sounds, and especially when writing. And I hope it doesn't really confuse you that much because you've been practicing this, right? So 빵, 쓰다, 맛있다, 찌개. So here this 상시옷, so this tense consonants as well, when they are located at the end of one syllable, like the final position of the syllable, then they also go through final closure 받침 rule, so it becomes 맛있다. So you really definitely should learn pronunciation rules to better follow this. Alright, let's take a look at the questions.
닭, 닭,
The answer is 닭, 닭. 달, 닭, 닭. So you might be wondering like, oh, why this is the answer? So we'll talk about it a little later. Let's move on to the next question.
많다, 많다,
The answer is 많다, 많다. 닿다, 많다, 낮다. So here you can also see a lot of finer consonants. Then that's the one I wanted to just to show you. So in some syllable blocks in Korean, you have double consonants in the final position. So for example, this word 목. So although you see double consonants, in actual pronunciation, you don't have to pronounce both of them together. So the one colored as pink should be the sound, and the other consonant is going to be just silent. But in writing, because they differentiate the meaning from another word, that's why you need to remember the spelling in your writing. But when you speak, you also need to sort of study which one you should pronounce and which one you should not pronounce. So 목, 앉다, 많다, 다. Sometimes there are some exceptions, and maybe sometimes it might look like it's pretty random. So we'll talk a little bit more about this in future classes. There are a couple of more examples. You don't necessarily need to study double consonant words right now because you will encounter them in future lessons, and you can slowly add those words into your own vocabulary. So just let me read the couple of words you see on the screen. 젊다, 짧다, 잃다, 없다. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I hope it was helpful. Please let me know if you have any more questions. 감사합니다.